My own mother tried to steal everything I worked for, and she almost succeeded, until the manager found the note I hid. That's the moment everything changed for me. I was standing inside the bank, shaking, my mother pretending to cry in front of the staff. She kept saying, "It's just a family matter. She's confused, I'll handle it." But behind that soft voice was the same woman who had kicked me out 5 years ago with nothing but a suitcase. If you're watching this, hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe. Because what happens next will leave you speechless. Back then, I was 19 when my dad passed away. He left a small inheritance and a piece of land in my name. My mom said she'd handle the paperwork until I was older. I believed her, because that's what daughters do. But later, I found out she'd been secretly trying to sell it under her name. When I confronted her, she screamed that I was ungrateful, that everything in that house was hers. I left that night with nothing but a part-time job and a dream to prove I could make it on my own. 5 years later, I walked back into that same bank, not as the broke girl she abandoned, but as a woman who'd built her own small design studio, saved every penny, and was finally ready to buy back that same property in cash. I was nervous but proud, until I saw her, my mother, standing right next to the bank manager, holding the same property documents. She smiled when she saw me, that cold, fake smile. "Oh, Ella, perfect timing. I need your signature here," she said sweetly, pointing to the papers. The manager looked a bit confused, but my mom had clearly planned this. She told him it was a joint transfer to secure a family business. I could see her hand shaking slightly, maybe from nerves, maybe from guilt. I wasn't sure. I felt my throat tighten. If I said anything right now, she'd twist it to make me look crazy, emotional, unstable, just like she always did. But this time, I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I'd come prepared. Hidden inside my bag was a folded note, one I'd written the night before. So when she passed the papers to me, I didn't argue. I smiled too. I signed my name carefully, then slipped the folded note right under the document pile before handing it to the manager. He glanced at it, confused for a second, then unfolded it quietly behind the counter. His face changed instantly. "Mrs. Harris," he said slowly, looking up at my mom, "would you mind explaining why this note says, 'Do not process this'? She's trying to commit fraud?" My mother's face went pale. My mom froze. Her fake calmness vanished in a second. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to laugh it off. "It's just a misunderstanding. My daughter gets emotional sometimes." But the manager didn't smile back. He turned the note toward her so she could see it, and the words were clear, bold, and impossible to deny. "Do not process this transaction." "She's impersonating me." The entire bank went silent. You could literally hear people whispering. My mom's eyes darted between me and the manager, trying to come up with something, anything to cover herself. "She's lying," she said, her voice shaking. "She always does this to get attention. I'm her mother. Why would I ever steal from her?" I looked straight at her and said quietly, "Because you already did once." The manager frowned and asked both of us to step into his office for privacy. As soon as the door closed, my mom dropped her act. She leaned close to me and whispered through clenched teeth, "You think you're smart now, huh? Everything you have came from me. You wouldn't even exist without me. That land is mine." I didn't flinch this time. "No, Mom," I said, meeting her glare. "It was Dad's, and he left it to me for a reason, because he knew what you'd do." For a split second, her eyes flickered with something. Guilt, fear, maybe rage. Then she crossed her arms, saying, "You don't have proof. No one will believe you." The manager looked at both of us and calmly said, "Actually, we will verify everything right now." He pulled out the bank's system records, checking ownership and legal signatures. My mom's hand was visibly trembling now. I could see sweat forming on her forehead. While the manager was checking the files, she suddenly stood up and tried to leave the office, saying she had an emergency call. But the guard outside had already been alerted. She wasn't going anywhere. The manager then looked up and said, "Miss Ella, the property's ownership is indeed in your name. Your mother filed a fraudulent document to transfer it under her name using a fake signature." Her jaw dropped. "That's impossible." I didn't mean," he interrupted firmly. "Mrs. Harris, this is a serious criminal offense. I'll have to report this attempt to the authorities." I could feel my heart pounding, but I didn't say a word. For years, I dreamed of this moment, where the truth would finally stand on its own without me begging anyone to believe me. My mom's voice cracked as she turned toward me, tears welling up, though I couldn't tell if they were real this time. "Ella, please, don't do this to your mother." I took a deep breath and said, "You did this to yourself." The manager excused himself to make a quick call to the legal department, leaving both of us alone in the small, cold room. That's when she whispered something that made my stomach twist. Something I never saw coming. She said, "You think this is about money? You have no idea what your father really did." And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure if I was ready for the truth. Her words hit me like ice water. I blinked, stunned. What did she mean? What my father really did? I wanted to call her bluff, to tell her she was just trying to twist things again. But there was something different in her tone. For the first time in years, she sounded scared, not of getting caught, but of something else entirely. Before I could ask, the manager returned, followed by another man in a suit, the bank's legal advisor. They handed me a document confirming that my ownership was legally protected and that my mother's attempt had been flagged as fraud. I thanked them quietly, keeping my eyes on her the whole time. As they escorted her out to speak with the authorities, she turned her head toward me and said one last thing under her breath. "Go to the old storage unit. You'll see who your father really was." That night, I couldn't stop replaying her words. Every memory of my father, his gentle smile, his long hours working in his office, the way he'd hold my hand when I was scared, all of it felt suddenly uncertain. So the next morning, I went to the storage unit. I hadn't been there in years. Dust clung to the old boxes, and the air smelled like time had been holding its breath. I unlocked the rusty latch, switched on the dim bulb, and started searching. Most boxes were filled with old family albums, paperwork, and tools. Nothing unusual. But in the back corner, behind a stack of paint cans, was a locked metal case with my dad's initials scratched on top. My heart thudded. I used a screwdriver to pry it open. Inside were dozens of documents, property deeds, business letters, old photographs. But one file stood out. It had my mother's name and mine written in his handwriting. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. My father hadn't just owned one piece of land, he'd owned 5, all under different trusts. And according to the papers, the duplex and the rest of the assets were set to transfer to me on my 25th birthday. My mom had known all along. She wasn't stealing because she needed money. She was desperate because she knew once those papers surfaced, she'd lose everything. At the bottom of the folder was a handwritten note from my dad. "Ella, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it to explain. Your mother and I had our battles, but remember, love doesn't mean blindness. Protect what's yours, and forgive her if you can." Tears blurred my vision. For the first time, I understood. My father hadn't just trusted me with land. He trusted me to break a cycle. I closed the box, locked the unit, and stepped outside as the morning light hit my face. My phone buzzed. It was the police station. They'd taken my mom in for questioning, but she wanted to see me one last time. And even though every part of me wanted to walk away, I knew I couldn't end the story like that. Not yet, because this time, I wasn't going there as her daughter. I was going as the woman she taught me to become, strong, smart, and unbreakable. The police station was colder than I expected. The fluorescent lights hummed quietly, reflecting off the white tile floor. As I walked in, an officer nodded toward the small interrogation room at the end of the hallway. "She's waiting for you," he said softly. My heart pounded with every step. For years, I'd wanted this moment, a face-to-face confrontation where I could finally tell her how deeply she'd hurt me. But now that I was here, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. When I entered the room, she was sitting at the metal table, hands folded, eyes red but still defiant. The moment she saw me, her lips trembled. "Ella," she whispered. I sat down across from her, silent. The air between us felt heavy, packed with everything we'd never said. She finally spoke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just trying to survive. After your father died, everything fell apart. I was scared of losing it all. I clenched my fists, trying to steady my voice. So you tried to take it from me instead? Tears slipped down her cheeks. You wouldn't understand. He always loved you more. You were his favorite, his pride. I was just the woman who got left behind. That hit harder than I expected. For the first time, I saw not the manipulative woman who'd lied and schemed, but someone broken, eaten alive by jealousy and grief. I found his letter, I said quietly. He asked me to forgive you. Her eyes widened, and she looked down at her trembling hands. I don't deserve it. You're right, I said. You don't, but I'm going to try anyway. She looked up, shocked. Why? Because I don't want to live like you. Angry, bitter, blaming everyone else. I want peace, and forgiveness is the only way I'll get it. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. It never could be, but it was a start. I stood up, pushed the chair back, and said, You taught me what kind of woman I never want to become. For that, thank you. As I walked toward the door, she called out one last time, her voice shaking. Ella, you're stronger than I ever was. I turned, met her eyes, and said softly, I know. When I stepped outside, the afternoon sun hit my face, warm and calm. For the first time in years, I felt free, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally let go. I looked up at the sky, smiled, and whispered, This ends with me.